And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Doing the Work post-game show. As tonight, your fifth-seeded Indiana Hoosiers win over the 13th-seeded Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I had a brain moment there. In their first game of the Big Ten tournament on the second day of the tournament. Indiana knocked off Rutgers 66-54. This now takes Indiana to 20-7 on the year. That is now our seventh year in a row with a 20-win season. All right. Well, I am your host, Kathy Amos. And with a last-minute change in our lineup, Jeff is unable to make us, so coming in off of the bench is my co-host, Sean Cron. And today we will break down the game for you on this edition of Doing the Work. This is the new show on the Back Home Network dedicated to covering IU women's basketball. So let's start the show the way we start every show, and that is with our banner moment. So for me, Sean, I'm going to go back actually to the very end of the game. And it was with 1:16 left in that fourth quarter. And Allie Happer hit her fifth three for the game and actually tied a Big Ten tournament record for most threes hit by a woman in the Big Ten tournament. And I thought this was a good banner moment because we had a three from Allie early on. And really, I just thought from tip into the end that she really just helped set the tone and really led the team to a good shooting night. When maybe there were other things that weren't quite going on the way we would want it to. I thought our defense wasn't quite as sharp as maybe we'd have liked to see. We were definitely a little careless with the ball, which we'll get into, I'm sure, in more detail today. But I think our shining moment for our team tonight was our shooting, and especially from Allie. And for me, that was the banner moment for me for the game. And our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. Now in their fifth season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their first in the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. And did you know that among Home Field's large collection of vintage IU apparel is a shirt commemorating one of the most successful seasons in the history of women's basketball program? It's true. When you go to the IU collection, you'll find a t-shirt commemorating the 1983 season when Indiana won the Big Ten and made its first NCAA tournament appearance. Given what the women's team is doing this year, it might be time for a new shirt. And if you support other college teams or have people in your life that do, Home Field probably has something for them as well. Their product line now extends to more than 120 different schools with unique vintage logos for all of them. And no matter what you buy, you know it will be comfortable and the colors will last through many washings. Plus, you're supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through Kelly, so what could be better than that? Go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME, H-O-M-E, to save 15% off your entire first order. Again, that's homefieldapparel.com, and the promo code is HOME, H-O-M-E. Wear one for the team. Okay, now it's time to move the ball and find the open player and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And Sean, I will pass it over to you. What do you have for us tonight?
Thanks, Kathy, and thanks for having me on the show again. As you said in the beginning there, this game, there was some high points and some low points, and it just kind of seemed to, have its peaks and valleys, both on the offensive end and the defensive end. But overall, hey, this is our first game of this year's Big Ten tournament, and we came away with a victory. So we pulled it off in the end. We'll highlight some of these stats as we go through the rest of the show tonight. But I think overall, we came away with a victory. There's some things that we need to learn from this game, some things we need to get better at. But then there's some things that we did really well. So I think we need to point those out and applaud our girls for that.
Absolutely, 100% agree. So as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's 54-66 win over Rutgers, we will point out today's meaningful moments you might have missed, and then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You are listening to the Doing the Work post-game show. Again, my name's Kathy Amos. I'm here with my co-host Sean Cron, and we are breaking down Indiana's 54-66 win over Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament. So it's time now for meaningful moments that you might have missed, or maybe just meaningful moments that everybody saw, but we want to talk about. So Sean, I think we've been going kind of quarter by quarter. So why don't we start with the first quarter, and how about you kick us off? What is something that really jumped out to you?
Yeah, I think, to begin the game, I thought we, at the 7:30 mark, I had marked down that, we had a block by Mackenzie Holmes. And then at the 7:02 mark, there was another block by Mackenzie Holmes. And I wrote down, hey, is this going to set the tone for the game? Is our defense going to step up and set the tone? And so I was really looking forward to that. Unfortunately, that it kind of wavered off back and forth throughout the night or throughout the game. But it was a good start to that first quarter. And a couple other moments I had written down was at the 2:59 mark. Allie had hit her first 3-pointer, and as you had said earlier, I mean, she went had 5 3-pointers tonight. So that was just the first of many tonight, and it really set the tone, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I agree, and I have that same Alley 3 written down, but what I had written down was not just the 3, but some of the things that led up to it. So that started around actually the 3:19 mark, where there was a 3-second call on Mac, and that led to a quick Rutgers layup that actually led Rutgers to their second lead. So they had led when they scored first 0-2, and then we came back and ended up winning that first segment 5-8, so 3 points. And then we got a little slow here coming out of that first media timeout, and that layup gave Rutgers that lead to 9-8. But as you mentioned, then Allie came down and followed it up with her first 3 in the night, and that put us up 9-11. Then, following up, Quinn pointed out here in the chat that this was a very low scoring game, and that's true. We had the first and the third ranked Big Ten teams on defense playing each other tonight. So not surprising that it was a low scoring game. And, again, we'll get into it with when we get inside the numbers, but it was kind of sloppy on both sides of the ball as well. One could argue, was it sloppy because of the play, or was it because of the defense? I would say it was probably a combination of both. But at that 2:04 mark, I thought that the Rutgers defense was actually really well on display. Rutgers really does a lot of switching and really well communicating, I thought, and they were playing some really tough D, and Grace Wagner was in off of the bench, and she really had to put up a shot at the last minute, ended up airballing it, and it ended up with a shot clock and one of our turnovers in that half, or in that quarter rather. So I thought there were a couple of times in that first quarter in particular, we ended up with 6 turnovers in the quarter. I thought that some of it was caused by tough D, and some of it was just maybe some careless play. But what did you feel about our play in terms of taking care of the ball, or our defense on the other end in that first quarter?
Yeah, I think, as far as taking care of the ball, we definitely could have done better. We had a few turnovers tonight, especially in that first quarter. I don't know if it was just nerves or what, but definitely could have taken care of the ball a lot better tonight. One other thing I was going to mention, you had pointed out that Grace Wagner, she came in off the bench. Another one was that I'd like to see right away was Ariel Wisney. She came in for it was only a minute in that first quarter, but I'd like to see that early on, because Mackenzie was going to need a rest tonight. With Keandra Brown being out tonight, Mackenzie was going to need rest, and with Ariel coming in, she didn't play a whole lot tonight, but she was just able to provide enough relief, give Mackenzie and Alexa a rest, and so they can keep their legs under them for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Ariel didn't put up a whole lot of numbers other than her minutes that she played, which are 5 minutes, but she did what she needed to do in this game. As you mentioned, Keandra Brown was out with a hip injury. This was a reoccurring injury that she re-aggravated yesterday. There is a chance that she will play tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get Keandra back. But I didn't have a whole lot other than maybe the last play of the quarter I thought we should probably touch on, right? So at 43 seconds, Mac gets the ball down low, and she, I think, hit her first field goal of the game with 43 seconds left in the quarter. We go down, and we played some pretty good D there on Rutgers there, and then we got the ball back with a chance to really run that clock out, which we did, and Allie capped it with a three-pointer to end the quarter. So we ended up winning that quarter 10-16. But anything else that jumped out to you want to talk about in the first quarter?
I think, that shot that you had just touched on right there, you could see that when Allie put that up, she knew that was going in. You could tell her confidence was on high tonight.
Yeah.
And it was a good feeling. So, that shot put us up, 16-10 at the end of the first. So it really, it was really good to see her have a start to a good night. The other thing I wanted to touch on, is that at the end of the first quarter, IU only had 6 field goals, but they also had 6 turnovers in that first quarter. So, there was a lot of turnovers that first quarter, a lot of stuff that they needed to clean up, and I think going forward they're going to really have to work on that.
Yeah, and Rutgers almost matched us with that. They were 4 of 14 from the field and had 3 turnovers themselves. So yeah, it wasn't exactly the prettiest of basketball. Again, probably a combination of the tough defense that both teams tend to play. That's both of their calling cards. So all right, well, let's move on into the second quarter. And I'm going to go ahead and start us off really fairly close into the game, or into that quarter rather. 7:42. Rutgers just got another offensive rebound and put it back in for 2. And at that point, it made the game 16-18. So they were within 2 of us. And I wanted to point that out, not necessarily because I thought that was a specifically meaningful moment. I just thought in general that Rutgers really hit the board hard when they were on the offensive end, and that really ended up showing. Again, we'll get into offensive rebounds and the numbers later, but I thought it really ended up showing in a different game against a different caliber team. I think that could really come back to hurt us. So that is one thing in particular I'll be wanting to look at tomorrow, is that they hit the defensive glass a little better. So that was one I just wanted to point out. But what do you have in that second quarter, Sean?
One of the things I noticed in the second quarter was, we turned the ball over, but we also got some takeaways in that second quarter too. And I believe we ended up with 3 steals in that second quarter alone. One by Nikki at the 7:02 mark, and then one by Grace Berger at the 4:55 mark, and then another by Chloe Moore McNeil at the 4:06 mark. So, although we weren't able to take really good care of the ball like we would like them to see, we were at least stepping it up on defense and getting some takeaways also.
Yeah, and some of those turned into some really nice points. So you pointed out the steal from Nikki at 7:01. That actually led down the other end for a 3 from Allie. That ended up being her third, put us up 16-21 in the game. And at that point too, there was a lot of plays coming after that. I didn't write all of them down, but you could really see that we were trying to get Grace the ball as well. So we were coming up and screening around that free throw line on one side, letting Grace cut around to the other side. They started double teaming her off of that screen, but that was allowing her then to get the ball open, or get the ball to an open person. And I think that showed up in Grace's stat line, which again, we'll talk more about this in detail, but Grace ended up with 6 assists. And I thought a lot of that was because I thought we were running a lot of plays for Grace that were leading to either some nice little pull-up jumpers from her spot, as I like to call it, or an assist for Grace. But yes, I had that same thing with the steal for Chloe, that then she took it down and drove it for a layup on the other end. She didn't make it, but she ended up getting fouled, and she ended up with hitting 2 free throws. That play put us up 20-26. What else did you have going on in that second quarter?
I think one of the big things that I noticed was Alexa. She got into some foul trouble early this game. With 1:03 left, she picked up her 3rd foul, and had to sit for the rest of the half, which, it was only a minute, so that didn't hurt us too bad. But she, I think because of those fouls, she didn't have a really good night. She did have a couple turnovers also, but I think you had hit on it already. It was Grace Berger tonight. her mid-range game was on fire. I mean, they were allowing her to shoot that shot all night long, and she was taking advantage of it.
Yeah, Grace had a great night. Yeah, Lexi ended up with that third foul with a minute 3 left to go in that half. But right before that, we did have a nice 8-0 run that really helped give us a nice cushion. So that started pretty early on and not early on about, it came really quickly. It ended at the 2:17 mark, but that was a nice run to sort of in that that second quarter, first half. And, we ended up playing them even in that quarter, but went into the locker room with a nice 6-point lead of 26-32. I didn't have anything else in the first or the second quarter. Anything, Sean, for you that you'd like to point out?
No, I think it kind of goes back to, you had said that we had played them evenly in that second quarter, and this was kind of where I was talking about. It was kind of like a lot of ups and downs in this game tonight, and that first quarter we ended up +6, and then the second quarter we ended up playing them even, and then you'll see throughout the rest of the game it kind of it flowed similarly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into that with the third quarter. So this is another quarter we ended up winning by 5 points. So what do you have in that third quarter?
I thought one of the biggest things, in this third quarter was that Shug Dixon went out at the 9:28 mark with an ankle injury, and she didn't come back the rest of the night. So. Yeah. At that point, I just wrote down ankle question mark. How's this going to affect the rest of the game? Because up to that point, she had 8 points. Mm-hmm. She was playing really well. I mean, she was able to create her own shot, and I think she was the one kind of keeping Rutgers in the game at that point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I do have to say Lassiter for Rutgers, though, came in off of their bench and really gave them some outstanding minutes. 23 minutes for her off of the bench for Rutgers, and she ended up in double figures with 12 points for them. So I thought she, did what she needed to. And, of course, Osh Brown is their main player there, and she ended up with her with 12 points as well. So going back to our play-by-play in the third quarter, I thought, again, just Allie picked up where she left off in that first and second quarter by just 45 seconds in, and there was a nice inbounds play that was run for Allie, and she had a nice pull-up jumper to really score for the first score for that half and put us up 34-26. And then about a minute and a half or so later, about 7:26, we had some really great defense again by Mac. You mentioned some of the blocks she had early on. Mm-hmm. I think we're seeing Mac really slowly coming back into maybe some of her pre-injury form. I don't think we'll get there this season. I think that's just too much to ask of her, but we're definitely seeing glimpses, and I'm using Coach Morin's words from her halftime interview, or maybe it was post-game, but regardless, Coach is seeing it as well. I think we all can say we're seeing glimpses from Mac. So at that 7:26, we had some really great defense again from Mac, and it really affected Rutgers into a bad shot that ended up going off the backboard, didn't hit the rim, and ended up with a shot clock violation. So again, something that you're not going to necessarily see in the stats per se, other than it ended up being a team turnover for Rutgers. The unfortunate thing is then we came down, and at 7:15, Lex had a moving screen called on her. Again, just not setting her feet. I felt Alexa was a little unfocused today, and unfortunately that ended up being her fourth foul very early on into that third quarter. What do you have else on third quarter going on?
Those are kind of the highlights. Those are kind of the highlights that I had in the third quarter. So.
Sure. Yeah, so I had a couple other ones. So I've talked about defense on the offensive end. About halfway through that quarter, I just thought there was a great sequence where Grace Berger had the ball and really ended up with a hockey assist, as I think they're called. So she passed it from Grace around the outside to Chloe Moore McNeil, who got it down low to Mac, and then got a nice field goal at that point in that 5:42. Unfortunately, though, some of those turnovers were starting to creep back in around the 4-minute mark. Nikki just really tried to force the ball down low into Mac, and it ended up with a turnover. Overall, from Nikki, I thought defensively tonight, she was spot on tonight. offensively, again, I thought she was really struggling. The turnover bug for her really was quite apparent. She didn't put up huge offensive numbers from a point standpoint as well. But talking about Nikki in general for the whole game, what other kind of thoughts do you have about Nikki and her play today?
I had to chuckle because listening to the commentators, they had said that Nikki has a pesky defense, and that's what we've talked about all year long. Is that she's kind of like a gnat. You just can't get rid of her. She's on you no matter where you go. So I love her tenacity on defense, and she just isn't willing to give up, and she's willing to hit the floor and do whatever it is on defense. Now on the offensive side, yeah, she had an off night, but I think she kind of helped make up for that on the defense. There was a couple other things I did have highlighted. At the 2:26 mark, Allie had hit her fourth three-pointer of the night, so she was 4 of 5 at that point on three-pointers. And then at the 1:10 mark, Grace hit a jumper to put us up 48-37. And at that point, that was her 24th game this year of scoring double digits. So I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, 24 out of our 27 games, she's had double digits this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, again, nice solid game from Grace Berger. And as you mentioned, the score there, 37-48, that would be the end of the third quarter score. I didn't have anything else written down for the third quarter. How about you?
That's all I had.
Okay. All right, so let's jump into the fourth quarter. So I'm going to, again, go back to our defense. About 3 minutes in, we had Chloe Moore McNeil in there, and she had a steal. Again, it's very similar to a play she had earlier in the game where she stole the ball, really took the ball down on her own on a nice fast break for a layup, and just got fouled and then ended up making both of her free throws. That put us up 39-52. And this is where I thought we were starting to really build a nice cushion there. And then right after that, Chloe Moore McNeil followed it up with just another steal. I'm sorry, I said Chloe, this is Nikki. And then Nikki followed it up with another steal and 2 free throws. So again, I mentioned earlier where Nikki was really struggling on defense, but these were 2 back-to-back plays where Nikki's defense just really came out, and it really highlighted why she made all Big Ten defensive team this year. I was maybe a little biased, but I thought maybe defensive player of the year, but not quite. So, but what else do you have in that fourth quarter? I do have a couple other ones, but why don't you take some?
Yeah, I had noted down both of those steals that you had talked about, but then after that second steal that she had at the 5:52 mark, Nikki actually came down and hit a 3-pointer, and that put us up by 16 points, which was our largest lead of the game. So I was like, hey, we've got things cooking now. Our defense has stepped up, our offense is clicking now, and then from there, Rutgers kind of started to claw their way back into it a little bit, and so Nikki did get another steal at the 4:58 mark. But then, like I said, Rutgers slowly just started hitting some shots, and we didn't. We went on a little drought there for about 3 minutes, and so we ended up letting Rutgers back into the game a little bit.
Yeah, we sure did. And that was after in the first half of that quarter, we actually went on a nice 16-6 run, as you mentioned, and that got us that 16-point lead. So, and then of course at the 3:27 mark, we had an offensive foul on Lexi, and that was her 5th foul. So I just point this out, not necessarily because it's a moment we missed. I think it was meaningful though, because it really capped off a game where I just thought Alexa was in general, again, just kind of unfocused. She wasn't quite there tonight, and it's definitely something that we're going to have to look for correcting very quickly tomorrow when we have our next game. So yeah, we had a big 8-0 run there from Rutgers. So you mentioned Nikki's 3 that she hits off of that inbounds play from Grace at the 5:50 mark. Rutgers would then go on an 8-0 run after that 3, and would finally stop with a Grace pull up at the 2:05 mark. So at that point, then we were at 49-59. What else do you have in the fourth quarter?
So yeah, at that point we were up 49-59, and then shortly after that, Mackenzie Holmes got a block with a minute 53 at the minute 53 mark, and then Rutgers came down and scored. So they had closed it within 8 again, and then Allie came down and hits her 5th 3-pointer of the night at the minute 19 mark, and I think that pretty much put the nail in the coffin at that point. Yeah, she made her 5th 3-pointer, and then Grace added on another jumper shortly after at the 32-second mark.
Yep, agreed. And then with about 30 seconds left in the game, Grace Berger would put a cap in it with another one of her patented pull-up jumpers, and we would go on to win that game. Then I think winning that fourth quarter by 1 point with that run there by Rutgers in the middle. So that fourth quarter was definitely a game of runs. We saw one from IU and then another one followed up by Rutgers, but we were able to withstand it and win 54-66. All right, I think next it's probably time to go inside the numbers. So Sean, you want to start out maybe with some team numbers, and let's start there.
Yeah, I think overall, tonight, team numbers. I look at look at some of these stats. I'm like, how did we win that game? Because you look at the turnovers, and I think we both had both teams had 16 turnovers. And then you look at the points from turnovers. Rutgers ended up with 15, and IU had 20. So we had 20 points off of turnovers, which is really good. But then you look at like the points in the paint, and Rutgers ended up with 28 points in the paint versus we only had 20. And the big thing that jumped to me was second chance points. Second chance points. 17 points for Rutgers and only 2 for IU.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those offensive rebounds are what, I kind of touched on those early on, right? So offensive rebounds, we got 5, 15 for Rutgers. So clearly they had many more second chances and they turned them into second chance points. There was definitely a couple of sequences where they got 2 and 3. A couple of times we were able to, bulk up our defense and kept them from scoring, but 17 second chance points again is something they're really going to have to clean up tomorrow. I had all of those same numbers. The other thing I did write down was just the points off the bench for us. We had 4 points off on our bench, all of them from Chloe Moore McNeil. So this is one of the first games that was not a double-digit points for Chloe versus 20 for Rutgers. So again, we pointed out, as you mentioned, Dixon went out for them, and they did have a next player up mentality with Lassiter coming in and getting 12 points in off of their bench for them. The other thing I just wanted to talk on was just our field goal percentage. So you mentioned points in the paint. This was a time where we probably didn't need them, but that was because we had such good shooting. So if we look overall, we had a field goal percentage of 45%, so 22 of 48 shooting, compared to Rutgers at 37%. So I thought 45% from the field was really outstanding. And from 3-point, we were 40%, 6 of 15. And of course, 5 of those were from Allie. So, just overall, a really nice shooting performance from the team. What other kind of team stats are jumping off the page?
One other thing that I really noticed was the assists. IU had 18 assists to 3 assists for Rutgers, so a huge disparity there. And that was 18 assists on 22 field goals for IU. So you talk about efficiency. That is incredible right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Quang in the chat was asking about if their offensive rebounds, I think, was due to one player. Brown on their team had 5 of their 15, so she did have a third of theirs, but otherwise they were spread out pretty evenly, 2 or 1 for almost every player. Of all of their players that got into the game, all but 2, and they did play, compared to us, they fairly deep. They played 10 players, so all but 2 of their players ended up with an offensive rebound. So Quang, thanks for that question.
And I think that some of that offensive rebounding and the second chance points, had a lot to deal with Alexa being in foul trouble too. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Alexa, being in foul trouble, I think she ended up with only 23 minutes. On average, Alexa's usually playing in that high 30s. Almost all of our starters are. And she was the low one tonight. Mackenzie ended up actually playing 30 minutes for us tonight. So again, seeing Mackenzie getting back into that game shape, I think is really great. But yeah, only 23 points from Alexa. We're going to need a lot more from her tomorrow, for sure. Do you have any more team stats, or you want to jump into some individual ones?
I think the other team stat that we wanted to point out was that we had 10 steals on the night. Also, we had touched on that a little bit earlier. Nikki ended up with 5 steals during that game, so incredible defensive effort by her. So they Rutgers ended up with 16 turnovers, so we ended up forcing 10 of those turnovers.
Yep, absolutely. So, so 10 steals and 5 of them from Nikki. So again, I don't want people to think we're being hard on Nikki because she had a rough offensive night. She was outstanding again. Absolutely. On the defensive end. Outstanding. So, all right. So you want to pick out some individual stats that we should talk about here tonight?
Oh boy.
There's quite a few I think we could touch on. We already talked on Allie's record-breaking 5 3-pointers. So yes. You want to start with her?
Allie, I mean, she went 6 of 10 overall and 5 of 7 from three-pointers. So, you're shooting 60% overall on the night. I mean, that's pretty good. She ended up with 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and only 1 turnover. So, she ended up with a great night.
Yeah, Allie was superb tonight. This is the Allie that we need for the rest of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
If we can dial this Allie in the rest of the year and get Alexa going, keep getting Mackenzie going back, I think March might be a special month for us. But yeah, again, 6 assists is great, which leads us probably into the next player we should talk about, which is Grace Berger, who also had 6 assists. So Grace ended up with 17 points and 6 assists, also only one turnover for her, 2 steals as well. She shot 7 for 14 from field goals. So again, we didn't get a lot of scoring in the paint compared to Rutgers, but when you have your, 2 of your senior players shooting collectively 13 of 24, you don't really need, I guess, your points in the paint as much as maybe some other nights. But overall thoughts on Grace?
Yeah, I think Grace had another exceptional night. They're giving her that, her sweet spot all night long, which is right off the key, right off the free throw line. So, and she was knocking them down. And so I think, if she can continue to do that going forward, I think we should have a really good chance.
Yeah, I agree. Our other player that got into double digits for us tonight was Mackenzie. She did get 11 points tonight, which I believe was her high since she's come back off of her knee injury. If not, it was definitely pretty close to it. If not, she's been averaging, I think, around 8.5 to 9 points a game since she's come back off of her injury. So overall, again, just you could see some of the rust getting knocked off little by little. I felt like there were still some places, that maybe her feet weren't quite doing what she wanted them to do, or maybe missing a shot that earlier in the year she really would have made. So I think she's definitely working her way back into the rhythm of the game. I think the team is working with her as well. We talked about Nikki and her 5 turnovers tonight. 2 of them were trying to pass to Mackenzie. One of them in particular, I thought it was because maybe there was just a timing issue on, she was thinking Mac was going to go one way and Mac went a different way, and Nikki ended up throwing the ball away. So I think some of those timing, not just Mackenzie on her own, but with the team, is starting to come back. So what about Mackenzie and Nikki for you? Anything else you want to point out that we haven't talked on those 2?
Yeah, I think like you had said, you could see that she's starting to come back. She's not there yet. She's still working off the rust, but I was glad to see that she ended up with 5 rebounds tonight. So that's telling me that she's getting in there. She's she's bodying up and she's getting physical, and she's fighting for those rebounds. So just gradually, hopefully, she'll continue working at it and be able to get back to her old self here. And Nikki, like we had said earlier, I mean, on the defensive end, she was fantastic. She did have 2 assists to go along with 5 steals. And she was 4-4 from free throws tonight. So
Yeah.
I mean she was really good with free throws tonight.
Yeah, and those free throws, all 4 of them came on those back-to-back steals that I mentioned. Right. Yeah, so really good. So I don't have anything else in terms of individual or team stats. How about for you?
No, I think that's it for me.
Okay. Well, next we will move on then. So you are listening to the Doing the Work IU post-game show. You can catch us live following most IU women's basketball games, and you can find us at our website at simplycall.com, where you can also find a place to sign up for our free IU Hoops newsletter, where we're closing in on 10,000 fans following us or subscribe to the newsletter. You can find that at join.simplycall.com. Again, my name is Kathy Amos, and I'm here with my co-host, Sean Cron, and we are breaking down Indiana's Big Ten tournament win, so postseason win against Rutgers. All right, Sean, it is now time for our game balls. So we will go around the horn, and I literally mean that because while Jeff could not be with us tonight on the show, he did send me in his game ball and his Hoosier Hustle vote. So I'm going to start with Jeff in his honor since he can't join us. So Jeff, we miss you. But for Jeff, overall, he really appreciated Allie's shooting, with the 5 3-pointers, 5 of 7. He voted for Allie. But how about Sean, for you? Who do you vote for game ball?
Yeah, I've got to go with Allie tonight. The confidence she showed tonight with her 3-point shot was amazing. Like we said, 5 of 7, 6 of 10 overall. Just a fantastic night. 5 rebounds, 6 assists. That she really had a good game, and it was really good to see. I mean, because I know she struggled in some games, and some games she just didn't shoot like we had wanted her to. But she really came through tonight and helped propel this team to a victory.
Yeah, and I'm going to make it unanimous. I think this was for me an easy game ball to pick. Allie, again, we've been asking more of her, at least via the show, and maybe subliminally she's picking up on it. I'm sure we've had so much to do with it. But yeah, Allie for me is to me, I think, again, the clear-cut winner. So for our past game balls, that makes 4 for Allie now, 7 for Grace, 3 for Mac, 3 for Nikki, and 2 for Alexa. Okay, now it is time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, which is sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals through Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvilleSecurityServices.com to learn more. So, Sean, I'm going to kick it to you first this time before I reveal Jeff's Hoosier Hustle Award.
I've got to go with Grace on this one. 7 of 14 on the night, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. She was playing point guard a lot of the night too, and I think she was just crashing those boards, leading the team in rebounds and assists. I think I've got to give the hustle award to Grace tonight.
Yeah, and again, this was an easy one for me, which also I had Grace with my Hoosier Hustle, as did Coach Marlow. So no, Phil, we did not kick Coach Marlow off the show. Jeff had a conflict come up at the last minute, and so again, we're calling Sean in off of the bench. So Jeff will be back with us again one day. He will not be able to help us this weekend through the tournament. He will be out of town. So, but no, he will be back, promise.
and I agree with Quang. The honorable hustle every game goes to Nikki Chloe McNeil.
Yeah, Chloe Moore McNeil.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or actually, yeah, he said Nikki. Yeah, NCH. So, I mean, she, those 5 steals tonight were amazing.
Yeah, Nikki can clean up her turnovers for us tomorrow. Then, yeah, I think we'll be doing pretty good here. Okay, so past Hustle Awards for Grace, that now makes 5 Hoosier Hustle Awards. She is tied now with Chloe for 5. Nikki has had 3, to your point, Quang. And then we have 1 each for Mac, Keandra, Alexa, Grace Wagner, Caitlin, and Allie. Okay, Sean, anything specifically else about this game that you want to talk about before we leave it in the dust?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great first victory of the Big Ten tournament. But like we had said earlier, I think they're going to have to clean some things up for this next game. They're definitely not going to be able to turn the ball over that much, and they're going to need to win that rebounding category there. So crash the boards and hopefully develop an inside game for these upcoming games.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good segue into our preview of our upcoming show. So we will be back with you again tomorrow evening to break down our game against Maryland. So Indiana women will move on to play Maryland tomorrow. The game is going to be approximately at 2 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Central. Unfortunately, Sean and I do have regular day jobs, so we will be watching the game a little bit later, and we plan to go live again at 8 Central, or 8 Eastern or 7 Central again to talk about the game. So IU has only beat Maryland 1 time in the history. They are 1-12 versus Maryland. That win came earlier this year, though, on January the 2nd. So this was pre-Mac knee injury. So this is definitely a game where we will need Mac back. They are led by Angel Reese in scoring. She has 17.6 per games, or points per game that she averages. But they have 5 players. All 5 of their starters average in double figures. And as a team, they average 79 points per game. So this will absolutely not be a easy game. We need to watch out, for Maryland's as well. That 1 win is hanging out there, and I'm sure they are not going to forget that we beat them. But it's time to get back and continue moving on and shaking that rust off. This is definitely a game I think we are going to need all 5 of our starters as well to be on point. We can't afford to have 16 turnovers like we had tonight. Sean's already mentioned the rebounding. This is really going to have to be one where they come out together and they play strong together. I think the other lingering question as we kind of start getting into the lingering questions is Keandra Brown. She played an integral role, I think, for our team when Mackenzie was hurt, and I'm really hopeful that she'll be able to play tomorrow. We mentioned Ariel Wisney. She was able to come in and do okay in the 5 minutes that we have, but she's not able to put up and do the things that Keandra does. So I think to me, that is an important and question for this team, in addition to, can we get all 5 of our starters really humming together again tomorrow? Okay, so you are listening to the Doing the Work IU postgame show. One last reminder, go check out our friends at Homefield Apparel at homefieldapparel.com. Again, if you haven't ordered from them for some reason, I'm not sure why you're waiting, but please go do so. They have a lot of great stuff, and you can get 15% off if it is your first order with our code HOME, HOME. Okay, Sean, it is last call, so let's go around the horn for some closing statements. What do you have for us?
Like I said earlier, I think it was a good first victory, but we're gonna have to clean some things up. Hopefully, Alexa can stay out of foul trouble in this next game, and like you had said, we can get all 5 starters, clicking, and we're gonna need them against this Maryland team. It's gonna be a tough game.
Yeah, I am too. I'll be curious, especially if we can see how we can do with Angel Reese. I mean, she is a phenomenal player. So, again, I think I said everything I wanted to say in my lingering questions about what our storylines are. I think we all know, hopefully at this point, if you've been watching the women all year, you know what we're playing for at this point. We are still playing for a Big Ten title. It's
Yeah.
a Big Ten tournament title, and we are playing for at least a number 4 seed, which would mean we would host NCAA games. That's just huge, I think, for our team, as we saw in a lot of the games they had this year. You know, we have the Purdue game, and we've had some of the other games where our crowd just really showed up, and it can really propel them on. And we've seen that home advantage really come into play, and I want to be able to see that for our women in post play. So this is a huge game tomorrow. We need to, again, keep getting momentum back, getting Mac worked into everything, hopefully counterbalance back, and we'll just keep the train rolling. Okay, well, I think that will do it. So if you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.com/assemblycall to do that. And don't forget to also join our newsletter at join.assemblycall.com. A special thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design for designing our logo. And thank you all for listening. And for those of you in our chat mob here with the Workaholics, thank you for being with us live. We will be back tomorrow night to talk hoops again. But until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Yeah, it was nice to see Phil out there in the chat.
Yeah.
It was nice meeting Phil at the meetup a few weeks ago.
Absolutely.
I guess it's been almost a month now. Can you believe that? I don't know where February went, but thanks, Quang, for always being a great supporter of ours. And
Yes.
Sean, thank you so much for pinch hitting. I know this is not your favorite thing to do, is talk in front of people, so I appreciate it. And, and Tony, nice to see you too. Got to meet Tony as well at that meetup. So yeah, we try to be a little nicer to Ryan, but to be fair, we probably have some more positive things we can say than maybe they did against the other Rutgers game from this week. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't have to do the post-game show for the men's Rutgers game. So
that would have been rough.
Yeah, I mean, the women, even in their losses, have not, been nearly as hard, I think, for us to break down this year. And, Sean has only been on a couple shows here with me, but, for those of you who may not realize, since we have different last names, he is lucky enough to be married to me, sitting across from each other right now.
Yes.
And so he has been right by my side watching every one of these games. So, don't let him fool you. He knows just as much about these women as I pretend to know. So
I don't know about that.
All right, great. Cool. Anything else, Sean? Yeah, Quang, I agree. Sean, you did fantastic. So
I appreciate that.
All right, guys and gals, everyone out there listening, thank you as well. Even if you're not in here with us live, again, just a reminder, the women do play tomorrow. They will start approximately a half an hour after the first game ends rather. That will probably be around 2 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Central for those of you in Central Time Zone. Again, Sean and I have work to do. They pay us, so we feel like we should do the work, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately. We have to pay bills.
We will be back here, though, to talk hoops with everybody tomorrow at 8 Eastern or 7 Central. So thanks, everyone. Take care and have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.